And so it's fun to watch the distribution of entries into the classroom. You see, 950. So hopefully some more people will come to class. That would be nice. I think I can actually eliminate this view. Okay. All right, so good morning. It is nice to see everyone. The goals, the highest level goals of today is review, help with the book, a little bit of new knowledge, and then we're going to practice making project 2. We're not going to make project 2, but we'll make something like project 2. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. I've graded a lot of your project 1s, and all scores so far are in the 90s. So good job for you. Thank you for doing that. So how about we start with review? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody? Okay, we have a lot of things we could review. Learned about ifs, if else, if elif. We learned about for, chosen from a collection, and for, chosen from a range. We've learned about string formatting. There's a lot that we've learned. We've learned about tuples, learned about lists. Any questions from the book that you'd like to go over? Yeah.
Yeah, I think last class we looked at some of the challenge questions, and one of them had brackets that were going to be replaced for like formatting strings with specific decimal places. Could you review that process?
All right. Can you tell me the number of the project, of the challenge?
Oh, I'll have to find that. I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay, perhaps it's in chapter 7. Because there's string formatting in chapter 7.
It might be there. I thought it was something that we were reviewing from the last chapter that was due, but I'm not 100% sure.
So that would be 1 or 2, possibly.
Yeah, I'm looking at 2 right now. Oh yeah. So 2.4.3 isn't the same question, but it has the same
Content?
concept. Yeah.
Okay.
In the last print line, it has the brackets and then a colon, period F or period 4F. I'm a little confused on how that's used.
Okay, so I'm looking for, all right, let me project my screen and see if I'm in the right place. So give me a moment. Am I in the right place?
Yep.
Okay. So picking up here, the syntax for outputting the float, my float, with 2 digits after the decimal place is, and then they give the example. So the general form of string formatting, and by the way, this is between you and me, there are at least 3 completely different ways of doing string formatting in Python 3. So this is one of them. This is also the most recent. String formatting is accomplished by giving a string which potentially contains some placeholders in it. Placeholders are characters which are surrounded by braces inside the double quote. Just for a moment, I'm going to switch over here so I could write this stuff down for you. Okay, so string formatting, so string formatting would be some string. Whoops, wrong quote. Okay, dot format, parenthesis, and then arguments to the format. Okay, so inside this string, let's see, do I get any choices with that? No, it doesn't let me change the size. Too bad. I wanted bigger. Bigger. So inside the string, there can be placeholders, and the placeholders are surrounded by braces. And then within the placeholder could be the name of a variable. We haven't seen that yet, although I saw someone's project used it. Name of a variable, colon, and then some type of, perhaps there could be an alignment. And then a set of numbers. Okay, so there could be numbers like 0, n point m, and then a type. And that would be surrounded with the braces. So let me just change where this arrow is pointing, because it would be over here. So the alignment is optional, and it could be left align or right align. There are some other choices as well. And then the number is n is the total digits that you want to stay within. If the number requires more, it'll print more. And then the dot m is number of digits after the decimal place for floats. Okay, and then the types can be, for example, an F for float, S for string, and there are a bunch of other choices there too, which are described in the book. Okay, so let's see the participation activity. Let's run it at double speed. Let's see. So we've got math.py. Oh, hey, notice here's a new thing to import. Yeah, right.
We're not seeing the books.
Got it. Yeah, just once. I'd like to get through a whole class where I don't make that error. So here's a new thing to import. Import math, and math the math package has all sorts of tools for math. So sines, cosines, logarithms, the definition of pi. We could take a look at more of that. All right, and so Python does not attempt to output the full value of pi. Does that sound like a ridiculous thing to try? Because pi goes on forever. So by default, 15 digits after the decimal are presented. So we don't want to see the 15 digits. Instead, we only want to see 4, and that'll happen here if you can see where my cursor is scrubbing back and forth. All right. The last digit is rounded. And did I start over again? Oh, well, okay. So do you have a question relating to this?
I guess I was confused on whether the colon is something that gets printed or if that was kind of like the same function it has in an if statement where it just like lets you know something's coming.
In this case, the colon is used as a divider. Let's see what it divides. So I'll tell you what, in class. And oh my goodness, we got so much code here, but it's going. Does anybody have any question about this code before I destroy it? Okay, it is gone. So I'll tell you what, let's do the import of math, and let's print the value of math.pi. Pi. And then let's try some formatting with the with math.pi. And you know what? That's just too many characters to type. So what am I going to do? I'll say from math import pi, and now I don't have to type as much. Okay, so how about print pi, and let's do some formatting. Dot format, and pi is my data, and I'll show you more examples. So let's take a look. We've got, let's just for now put in the colon and then say 0.2 F. Let's try that. Okay, so the 0.2 says, give me at most that many digits after the decimal place. So I'm going to try, let's take a look at if it was a 0.3, and you'll get what you expect. You'll get 3 places. Now let's try 4 and see if there's any change. Aha, something's different here. Can you tell what it is?
It was rounded.
Correct, right. So the last digit will get rounded based upon what comes after the last digit. Okay? Looking at everybody's faces. All right. So how about we try playing with the value that goes here before the decimal place. So print, well, I'll just copy that line. I don't want to do that, all that typing. Yuck. Let's do something crazy. Okay. So the digits before the decimal place affect the total number of spaces that the variable will be printed in. Okay. And notice by default, it's right justified. I'm going to add to this a left justified. Okay. So now it's still taking up those 16 spaces, just that you can't see them. So tell you what, I'll put in a little bit more. I'll put in a star so that you can see how many spaces. Okay. Any questions so far?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, we're not done, but wait, there's more. I wonder if there's a way to center something. Not sure. Let's try it. Maybe it is an equal sign. Let's try that. No, didn't work. Okay, I'll have to look that up. I think there's a way to center it. But we know that right justification is going the other way. All right. Let's do another thing. Let's say that we have 2 pi. That's a popular number, 2 pi. And let's add a second item here. And we'll just do, oh, I don't know, just the F. And we'll add comma. Here's where the second parameter would go. All right, let's try that. Okay. Now, here's something kind of cool is what do you do with the, I said that the colon was a divider, as what goes on the left-hand side? Well, I'm going to do this, TPI, and over here, I'm going to do pi. Let's see what happens. Get an error. Okay, well, I'm not going to show that to you right now. All right. So never mind on that one. But where I was going with that is you can specify the, let's see, so what was the error? Okay, well, let's just try this. No, I'm not going to play with it. Not going to do it. Not going to fall into that trap. All right. So for now, I think this is enough review of the string formatting. I think it answers the question that was posed. Good. Okay. How about a next question? And it could be from the book or to review.
I'm just kind of confused on how you check for bad input in a code.
Okay. Well, it depends. Of course, you have to define, as the programmer, you need to know what constitutes bad input. So there are many different ways of doing it, depending upon what it means to have bad input. If we go back to rock, paper, scissors, we had a list. Of items. Well, I'll just do R, P, and S. And you were asked to make sure that the user's choice was limited to those values. So user input is input select from R, P, or S. And let's just print the user input. And I wrote a little, let's test a little. Okay, so it works so far, but I haven't checked for bad input. So I'm going to leave that print there so that we can see what you put in. And here I'm going to decide that I want to process or do the rest of the program only if the input is good. So if user input in L, then the rest of the program could be here. For example, we could do a print That is allowable. We could use an else to give you some kind of message saying that was bad. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so let's try that with some good input, and that's allowable. So here's one way. Here's another. And this way is filter bad input and exit. Okay, so here's another example. Okay, so if the user input not in L, and we could use the function called exit. And so here, I don't need the else, because if it is bad input, it'll exit. So it'll never get here if the input is bad. Okay, so here's bad. And it's being run twice. So makes me sad. It was detected as bad here. And then it was detected as bad here. Let's put in good input. Okay. Now, I'd like to mix in right now some of the new knowledge for today. Okay, and that is something called, the keyword is the while. Okay, and it'll be while some Boolean expression. So something evaluates to true or false, just like the if statement, colon, and then some Python lines of code. And these will be repeated until the Boolean becomes false. Okay, now just on the face of this, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so in English, while there is food to eat, eat. Okay, so when the food runs out, the loop stops. Let's go back to Replit and suppose, now the reason why I brought in the while is A, today's the right day to bring in the while, but B, we have a good example to extend this discussion of detecting things about user input. So for instance, how about we do it this way? So I'll ask for input, and while the user input in L, so in other words, it's good. User input is good. Print good input. And I tell you what, user input equal, I'm just going to copy this line. Okay, just eyeball this code, see if it makes sense to you. Lines 4 and 7 are the same. And let's try the program. So R, S, P, G is bad, and the loop exits. Okay? Okay, does anybody have any questions about this example? So permit me to draw the flow chart of what while looks like. So here is your code that you've executed before the while. And then there is the test of the Boolean. And that's going to be, if it's true, you do the body of code. And then watch this. That's why it's called a loop, is there's the loop. This is your body of code. And if false, okay, so now picture this. So while the question mark might be replaced with the user input in L, if it's true, then we do the body of code and go back to do the test again. And it'll happen as many times as the user inputs something that was good. Once the user inputs something that is not in the list, it follows this path and the loop is done. So let's keep this fresh in your mind and let's take a look at the code again. Okay. All right, let me try. So go ahead and enter, enter Replit. And I'd like you to write a program. We don't need pi right now, so I'll take it away. You don't need the list. We're going to write something entirely new. And just to remember, let's try writing a program. First part of the program is write a for loop that uses range from, let's say, 0 to 10, meaning ends at 9, and prints the value. Okay, can you write that program for me? Okay. So this should be review. Can someone tell me how to do it? Don't be bashful. You know how cranky I get when you're
You
bashful.
could do for n in range parentheses 0 comma 10 parentheses colon and then print n.
Perfect. Okay. So this was just to refresh our memory. Let's try running it. There, perfect. Now let's use a while loop to do the same thing. So I'm going to leave this here, but I'm going to comment it out so that it doesn't run. And let's use a while loop for the same thing. Well, it's not quite, the syntax is not quite as nice, but it's worth practicing. Let's say n is 0. And while n is less than 10, print n and n is equal to n plus 1. Okay, think about that code for a minute. Let's try it. Okay, it produces the same thing. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so now I want to introduce two more keywords. So one keyword we learned today was while. Now we're going to introduce two more. And go here. So those keywords are break and continue. These are almost always part of an if statement. You'll see why in a minute. And break leaves the loop. And continue goes to the next iteration. Okay, so first thing I'm going to try is skipping a number in the program we just wrote. And let's go back. Okay, so my goal now is skip multiples of 3. Okay, here it comes. Okay, so if, now how can I tell if n is a multiple of 3? Come on, folks, you know how to do it. We haven't used it much, but if n mod 3 is 0, then n was a multiple of 3. So which one can I use of break and continue? Which do you think would be the right one to skip and go to the next iteration?
Continue.
Yep. Okay. So and look, let's well, it's gonna be kind of obvious when we do it. I think I've written something bad here. Let's find out if it's bad. And then I'm going to ask you why it's bad. What happened? What happened? It seems like, well, the only way to explain this is that if all numbers are a multiple of 3, what the heck? Now, if you did this at home, use Control-C to stop it. Okay, so what I just wrote was an infinite loop. Can you tell me how to fix it and what went wrong? Okay, now, before, let me, okay, I thought I wrote down. Okay, so I said it verbally when I was discussing this picture. I didn't write it down. But the idea is that in a while loop, the loop will continue happening until something changes the decision. So the loop will just keep right on going as long as the answer is yes or true. Now let's go back to this code here, and maybe you'll have some insight as to why it's an infinite. This code is an infinite loop. Anybody?
Because it'll still be less than 10.
What will be n?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay, and but less than 10 is a good thing, right? It worked before, but where do you see the problem now?
Is it because like there's just continue with nothing limiting it?
Yep, you're on the right track. The reason this is an infinite loop using the while is nothing over here is changing n. So what's happening here, folks, is 0 less than 10? Yes. Is 0 mod 3 0? Yes. So it goes back to the is 0 less than 10? Yes. So there's your infinite loop. Nothing's changing the outcome of the while loop. Okay. So perhaps to fix this, should do that. All right, let's try that. Ah, and now the multiples of 3 are missing. Okay. Now,
Sorry.
yeah. No, please.
Why was it an infinite loop before? Why do we have to use Control C?
Okay, so Control C is a way of breaking a bad performing program.
Right.
You know, so Control C will end or stop a running program.
Right.
It was an infinite loop because a while loop will continue until its Boolean expression becomes false. And without that statement, there was nothing that could change the outcome of the Boolean expression.
So it just kept happening.
Over and over and over again.
Understood.
Okay. All right. So now I'd like to show you the break. I don't know, sometimes just weird stuff happens on the Mac. Discord just started by itself. Not happy about that. So now what does the break do? The break will cause the loop to exit immediately. Okay. And let's go look at the code. So tell you what, if it is, if n is a multiple of 7, break. So what do you think this will do? So specifically, will this print 0?
Don't we need a equals equals 0 after the 7?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Good job.
Is it going to print 0 and then stop?
Well, I'm asking you the question. Will it print 0 at all? Okay, what did it do before I added lines 15 and 16? Did it print 0?
No.
Okay, so what's going to happen at when n is 0? This evaluates to true. So n will become 1, and then you hit the continue, so you don't get to line 15 or line 16 or 17 or 18. At 1, we can expect to be printed. Oh, hell, let's just run the program. Hey, what happened there? Well, 0's missing. We talked about that. 3 is missing, and that's because of line 12. And then 4 is printed, and 5 is printed, and then the program stops. So it seems like it stopped at 6. Is that right? Test your logic here. Did
Well,
it
6
stop
is,
at 6?
no, because 6 is a multiple of 3.
Perfect, perfect. And then it does stop at 7. So you see how break left the loop. Okay? Okay. I'm so jazzed by this. I'm going to give you one of the classic interview questions. So write a program, and this is the kind of interview question where a potential employer wants to very quickly weed out somebody as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. So write a program that's called FizzBuzz that enumerates or counts from 0 to 100, okay, when the number is a multiple of 3, print fizz. When the number is a multiple of 5, print buzz. And finally, when the number is a multiple of 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. If none of the above are true, print the number. Okay, so this is right now I'm asking you to write a real live bona fide computer science, computer programmer interview question. Okay. So what do you say we try developing the program incrementally? It's always a good policy. So first, let's just print the numbers from 0 to 100 minus 1, really. Okay, so how would I do that? We can use the 4. Okay, Riley, do you have a guess for us, an answer? Okay, we did it not too long ago, a few minutes ago. 4. And Colin, either Colin? I just want to print the numbers from 0 to 99. Anybody?
Do you want 0 to 99 or include 100?
To 99.
Then
Oops.
you could do for n in range 100, print n.
Okay. So here's the first part of our incremental development of this program. Good, we got that part working. Okay, now, now, what do I do next? What our previous program kind of looked like this. If n is a multiple of 3, right? That's a multiple of 3. Print, what's it supposed to do? It's supposed to print fizz. Okay. Let's just naively continue. If n is a multiple of 5,
Wouldn't it need to be an elif?
I'm not sure. Why would it need to be an elif?
Because there's only supposed to be one if.
It could be more than one if.
Oh,
Okay, so elif would make them mutually exclusive.
oh, gotcha.
So this one says when the number is a multiple of 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. So yeah, I need to keep checking. So I don't know how to, well, maybe like this. And if n is a multiple of 3 and n is a multiple of 5, print fizz buzz. And then otherwise, well, I don't know what to do here. I'll just print n. Okay, let's try that. So let's see. Let's go back to 0 and start counting at 0. Wow, look at that. I've got really wrong output. So at 0, it printed fizz and buzz and fizz buzz. That's not what the spec says to do. So can you help me here? Should I put in elifs? Should I try that? Okay. I'll put in elifs. Okay. Let's try that. Let's go to where 0 is. Okay, now 0. 0 is not printing the right thing because 0 should be printing fizz buzz. 15 should be printing fizz and buzz together. So this isn't right either.
Can you make your first if statement the 3 and 5 multiple and then make the other two elifs?
All right, let's try that. And so that would be the fizz buzz, right? And this won't hurt. This won't hurt a bit. Okay, let's try that. Okay, things are looking better. Okay, so fizz buzz, 0, fizz buzz, correct. 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz up, and then we got a 6. That's a fizz, right? 6 is a multiple of 3. 7, 8, fizz buzz, so 9 10 is multiple of 5. And then 11, 12 is a multiple of 3. 13, 14, 15 is both, so fizz buzz. Not bad. Does anybody see any problems? Okay, cool. So you've just wrote fizz buzz.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the instructions, you said 0 to 100, but in here we
Mhm.
only went to 99. Do we normally go one under what they say?
No, well, it depends. Usually I would be more careful. I would, if I meant to hit 100, I would say inclusive. So usually I'm more careful. I apologize. And that would make this a 101.
So if it doesn't say inclusive, then we go to one under.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Okay.
Could you clarify why the if it's a multiple of 3 and 5 needs to go in the first statement?
To avoid a double printing. So if it's 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. But then if the elif were just an if, it would also, for something that was a multiple of 15, 3 and 5, it would print buzz and fizz also. So it print all 3. Let's try that. Okay. So here's 89, 90, which is a multiple of 3 and 5. You got fizz and buzz and fizz, fizz buzz and fizz. Does that example help you, Olivia?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I was going to introduce one more concept, but I want to leave a lot more time for practicing for project 2. So I'm going to turn to that instead. Now in project 2, P2 asks you to make a histogram of 2 dice rolls summed together. Okay. And it also asks you to do some cool output every 10th experiment. So we're not going to do that. That would be doing project 2. We're not going to do project 2. So let's do something similar. So print a histogram of 1 die rolling 1,000 times, 10,000 times, what the heck, times. Yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do. Print a histogram of 1 die rolling 10,000 times. Print the histogram only at the end of the program. Okay, can you write that?
So this time we're not using the fancy old school trick.
Correct, correct,
Okay.
right. So tell me, what kind of data structure do we need to keep track of the histogram? What data structure does the project 2 specification ask for? or tell you to use.
A for loop.
That's a code. I'm asking about how the data is stored.
In a list.
Yes, that's right. So if you are looking at the project 2 specifications, so how would I create a list of multiple entries of 0, and how many entries in the list should I have?
You need 13, right? Is that what
Well,
it
that's for
says?
two, that's 2 dice. But we're doing 1 die.
So would it be the brackets with a 0 in the middle times 6?
Okay, we could do 6. Let's do 6. Why 6? Because there are 6 values on a die, right? Okay. Now we want to, good, so we've got that. We wrote a little, let's test a little. Let's just make sure we got what we think we're gonna get. Yep, I've got 6 zeros in a list. Good. And now it's time to create our loop. And how would you iterate 10,000 times? We've done it twice this class. Hello? Rhymes with snore.
Could use a for loop.
Okay. Okay. And now I want to roll a die. So how can I do that?
Use rand int.
All right. And I'll assign it to a value. Let's say d equals rand int. And it would be a random integer between 1 and 6. You agree?
Yes.
Do we need
Okay.
to import random?
Oh, yes, we do. Okay. So from random import rand int. Good. Okay. Now, what does it mean to have a histogram? So I rolled 1 die. What do I do with the value?
Sorry, for the for statement, should we have it like 10,001, just to include that 10,000th row?
We could. In this case, doesn't matter. If we made it 10,001, then the loop would execute 10,001 times. The last value would be 10,000. So a histogram is a list that sums up how many times a certain occurrence happens. So in this case, we're counting up how many times a particular pip comes up on the die. So what do I do?
Professor,
Hmm?
I am trying to follow along. I have opened a new file, but for some reason, the things aren't turning into what I think they're supposed to. Like from random import rand int. The keywords like from and import are supposed to turn blue to signify they're doing something.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop
This
sharing.
is not what is happening.
Okay, well, I have a theory, but could you share your screen, make sure it's safe to share?
Yeah. Share
And
screen.
then we'll see if it's what I
This
suspect it
one.
is.
Share. it is this. I figured out putting in .py,
Uh-huh.
but it's still, and then there's
So click on main, please.
me.
Yep. Okay, that seems to be happy with Python. So click on the other one again.
これは
Uh,
I'm not sure what's up with this.
Yeah, I've had like the same thing kind of happen. And then like if I try and write code in like the new files, it doesn't work. But if
Yeah,
I take like code from main and I copy and paste it into a new file, then it works, but it's still like all black like that.
oh,
very
interesting.
strange.
Can
And
you,
then
are you on, you're on Windows, so,
This is a comment, but that doesn't turn gray.
okay. So hit Control R.
Control R. Okay. Reload the site. Loading file. Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay.
Is it because I didn't put .py when I was creating the file in the first place?
What, probably, yes.
Okay. Understood. Makes sense now.
Okay.
Stop
All
sharing.
right. Okay, so ideas. What do I do with my die roll? How do I apply it to the histogram?
Print n.
Okay, that'll print, but it doesn't change the histogram. So it has something to do with, if you roll a 3, you should add 1 to the bucket that counts 3s. Right? If you roll a 5, it should add 1 to the bucket that counts 5s. So
Right.
how about this? So if you roll a 5, it should add 1 to the bucket that holds 5s. What do you think? Anybody? Does anybody see a problem with this?
Yeah.
What's the
The
problem?
way we did it when we need a D-1,
Oh, why would that be?
because there's only 6 boxes and it starts at 0 and goes to 5.
Good, good, very good. Okay, so we're developing the program incrementally. So let's just do that and then print H. Okay, that's starting to look like a histogram. And interestingly, the numbers are, does that make sense? The numbers are relatively the same. But in the other, in project 2, the numbers aren't all the same. So do these numbers seem right?
You have an equal chance of rolling each of the 6 sides of the die, but when you roll 2 dice, there's multiple chances to get different sums.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And should I worry if these values are different? So the first value is 1668. Should I worry about them changing? Is that a problem?
No, because they're random numbers.
Exactly. Now, folks, forgive me if this all seems very elementary, but in your future, you're going to start writing more and more sophisticated calculations. And these are all questions that you want under your belt before you get there. So what about the number of experiments? Well, 10,000 seems like so many. Why don't I just use 10? You know, program will run faster, right? I don't think I can get anything that is, quote, statistically significant out of this, can I? So I don't know, let's try, how many is that? That's 100,000. Before we did 10,000. And the numbers are closer together. Let's try making it 1,000,000. 1,000,000 experiments. Takes a little longer. Takes a lot longer. Okay, what is the difference between the biggest and the smallest? That's the biggest, 746 and 602. So the big difference here is just a few hundred, a couple of hundred. All right. So as you develop your, if you're doing any statistical analysis, the rules of statistics still apply, and that is having too small a sample space is a problem. Having an enormous sample space may get you closer to the truth. You'd have to do your own analysis to figure out when enormous is too much. And you could do that using the various tests, statistical tests. But now take a look at the histogram. It is just raw numbers. I'd like it to be percentages of the whole thing. So how about we first figure out how do you sum these numbers up and what should the sum be?
The sum of all of them should add
Yeah.
up to be 1,000,000 because that's how many times you put it in.
That's exactly right. So to make the program a little bit easier to understand, I'll say number of trials equals, and I'll put it in 100,000 this time because 1,000,000 took too long. And number of trials. And how can I sum a list? How do I sum a list? That's a white horse question.
Ask it to give you the sum of.
I'll take it.
list 8.
I'll take it. Yep. So let's print the print. We wrote a little, let's test it. And let's also compare that to number of trials. Good. Notice those last two numbers equal each other. So this was kind of a sniff test, right? A pencil check, a sanity check. There are lots of different ways of putting it. So by both of those values being the same, I know that the other code that I wrote seems likely it'll be correct. Now, why did I ask, in addition to being a check value, why do you think that I asked you to figure out the sum?
Because you have to divide each value in H by the sum to get the percentage.
Exactly right. So how about we do it in a loop? So how would I loop through the contents of H? So how do I do that? For a value in H. And print the value divided by the total value. Let's try that. Skip a line. Oops. Where am I? Line 21. For V in H. Print V. What did I do wrong? Did I? Help me. That was strange. I just ran it again and it was fine. Okay, so this is looking good, but now let me ask you, how do you only print 2 decimal places?
The curly bracket format thing.
Good, good. I'm going to digress. What I just did, that reminds me of Torchy, right? Because I don't call Torchy Torchy, I call him Touchy. And I wouldn't let him near small children because he's always going like this. It's like, that freaks me out. That just totally weirds me out.
What does
Okay,
that say?
so, what?
How do I do the clear on my screen?
Oh, okay. So, CLEAR. But then if you do a semicolon, then you can do another command. And I'm using that to be Python main.py.
Gotcha.
And that way, for me, it's starting out. Oops, I didn't do that, did I? Oh, darn it. So it disconnected me from REPL again. So clear, semicolon, Python main.py. And that way it always goes to the top of the screen.
Ah, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, I've already been helped. I need that string format, another parenthesis, and what goes in here? Anybody? Oh, I remember. It was colon dot two. Okay, does that look good?
I have another
You have to
question.
use the curly brackets.
Aha, I have a mistake. It's supposed to be curly brackets, correct.
And then I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't you need an F after the 2?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, sorry, Milo, but don't you need an F after the 2?
Okay. Yep, another mistake I made. Good, you guys are like totally on top of this stuff.
And then why is line 19 just print empty brackets?
Oh, I just wanted to
Oh, gotcha.
do
So it
a
has a
line,
little
yeah, a little
line
break
break.
right here.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Ah, so this says if I squint close enough, if I squint enough, all the numbers are the same, which is what I expected. Okay, so this practice is going to help you do project 2. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so I said that I wanted to present something else, and I thought maybe I couldn't, but I guess I'm wrong. I can. You ready to learn something new? You ready?
Woo!
Yeah, that's how I feel. So let's do this for I, comma, V in enumerate H. And I'm going to add in something else to print. And I'll even make it pretty there. And colon. And gotta remember Okay, let me just do that, make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay. I'm going to make this, yeah. All right. So take a look. What do you think this did? What did enumerate do?
It gave you the options of what theoretically could be rolled, although it started at 0 and went to 5.
Okay, we can fix that. I'll say I
Yeah.
plus 1.
Okay. But like now it tells you which one got what percentage.
Which, yep. But what did enumerate do? Well, first, it looks like enumerate's returning 2 things to us, where the second item is the member, the value at a particular spot in H, but the first item is its position in H. So I'm getting 2 things back from enumerate. So the first item that the enumerate gives back is the position within the collection. And then the second item, in this case V, is the value of the item from the collection.
How does enumerate know that V is the value if we haven't defined it as such?
The for loop, well, Python allows you to create variables by using them in this case. So before we saw for V in H, right? So that we know that that works. And on line 21 is the first time we see V.
Oh,
It works. So that is an assignment of, this is equivalent to V equals H0. And we've seen that this works for an assignment statement.
right.
And then it'll be a print, and then V equals H1, and then a print. Right? That's what line 24 and 25 are doing.
Okay.
Now that's not 21 and 22 is not real Python. That was just for explanation.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Enumerate something that you have to import.
No, it's built into the language. It's one of the quote keywords.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you feel confident about doing project 2?
Yes.
Okay. And other folks? Okay.
So.
Yeah, I see a couple of heads nodding. Good. Good. Okay, so the new knowledge that we learned today is while and break and continue and enumerate. And we wrote a program that is sort of a precursor to project 2. I'm happy to end class today and send you on to your lunch hour a little early. Sound good? Okay, well, I'll stay here for a few minutes if you have questions. Otherwise, you are free to go.
All right. Thanks much.
Freedom is good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Colin, do you have a question? Nope, bye-bye.